So once again, a very good evening to all of you, and
Sir,
of
I'm
course
stop
it's
sharing the
time.
screen, stopping the screen sharing. Okay, sir?
Okay, now my screen is visible now, I hope.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, so very good evening and welcome to the nutrition quiz. Now, for any quiz, it's always best when we can interact in person, but of course we now have our constraints, so we'll be doing this quiz virtually. Now, for doing a quiz virtually, the rules are a bit different from what we usually do when we do it physically. Here, every person plays for himself or herself. There are no teams here. Everyone is an individual participant in this quiz. And of course, there are prizes for this quiz, and the winners will be announced right at the end of the program. So you have to stay tuned throughout the program to know whether you have won the quiz or not. Now, how do you answer questions which are asked in the quiz? Now, the quiz questions are quite simple. There will be 10 questions in all. The answers are either single words or small phrases. There are no lengthy answers here. And you need to take a blank piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. So while I'm explaining the rules, all the participants grab a piece of paper, a white sheet of paper quickly, write your name, write your phone number on top of the piece of paper, and you get to see a phone number on the screen. After you have completed answering the questions, there are 10 questions in all. So you put in numbers from 1 to 10 on that white sheet of paper. You write your name and your individual phone number on the top of that white sheet of paper. And after I have completed asking all the 10 questions, at the end of the 10th question, I'll wait for a minute or so, after which I won't receive any more answer entries. Now, how do you send your answers? You take an image of your answer sheet after you complete writing all the answers. As I go on asking the questions, I'll be giving some time after each question, during which you can pen down your answers. And after I've completed asking all the 10 questions, a minute after that, I'll be not receiving any more entries. The entries have to be sent via WhatsApp to the number that is there on your screens. So the basics: get a white sheet of paper, write your name, write your phone number. The number that you are getting to see on that screen, 9903950841, is the number where you have to send an image of your answer sheet via WhatsApp after the quiz is over. And this quiz is open exclusively to non-doctors, which means that dietitians, diabetes educators, other paramedics, lay people with or without diabetes are the ones who are allowed to participate competitively in this quiz. Now, doctors who have tuned into this session, they can think of the answers, write it down on a piece of paper, but don't send in your entries to this number. You can get to correct your answers when I give them out after the end of asking 10 questions, but you are not in the competitive part of the quiz. This competitive quiz is open only to non-doctors, that is diabetes educators, dietitians, and lay people with or without diabetes. And of course, at the end, when I'll be giving out the answers, the quiz master, that is my decision, is final in case of any dispute. So with that, I think the rules are more or less clear. You write down the answers on your piece of paper, write your name and phone number, and when the time is over, before that, you have to send an image of your answer sheet to the number that is there on your screen in red. Now I move over to the first question of the quiz. And most of these answers are pretty simple. You just have to think carefully. If you know the answer, it's good, or you can always guess because there are no negative marks. So which of the following is false? Excess salt consumption leads to A, stomach cancer, B, osteoporosis, C, renal stones, or D, loss of weight. Which of the following is false? There are 4 options in front of you. Excess salt consumption leads to all of the following except one. Something here is false. Which of the 4 options is false? That is what you need to give out as an answer. I'll be waiting for about 15 seconds before moving to the next question. Okay, so the next question of this quiz is, there is a statement which is written on your screen, which is that pink salt, or what is popularly known as beet noon or beet lobun, is obtained from Himalayan rock salt, which is again popularly known as Sandhab noon or Sandhab lobun. And pink salt as well as Himalayan salt have 20% less sodium than common table salt. So you have a statement in front of you, which is that pink salt is obtained from Himalayan rock salt and it has 20% less sodium than table salt or common salt, which is available widely commercially. Is this statement true or is this statement false? I don't need any explanations. You just give me whether the statement that you see on your screen is true or whether it is false. So the next question. What you get to see on your screen are a variety of fruits. And beside the name of each fruit, the amount of digestible carbohydrate that is present in 100 grams of that fruit is written on your screen. For example, in watermelon, there are 7 grams of digestible carbohydrate per 100 grams of watermelon. So there are two parts of this answer. One, if you look at the lemon part, it has a A written there and a red box covering the amount of digestible carbohydrate. If you look at the banana part, it has a B written there and it covers the amount of digestible carbohydrate. I want you to give me A, the amount of digestible carbohydrate in 100 grams of lemon, and B, the amount of digestible carbohydrates in 100 grams of banana. So A is a number, I need that answer. B is a number, I need that answer, which represent the amount of digestible carbohydrate in lemon and banana, 100 grams of those respectively. Question number 4 of this year's nutrition quiz. This is a simple, straightforward question. All of you must have bought bottled water while you're traveling on a bus or a train or a car. Now, if you look at the bottle of mineral water that you buy commonly, you get to see a best buy date, a best before date. Now, why does a bottle of water have an expiry date? Can water go bad? Because we know that they are sealed hermetically so that no bacteria or virus is there inside. So how come bottled water has an expiry date? So the question is, you need to give me the answer to why is there an expiry date on the bottle of water? What's the logic behind it? And I want a simple one-line answer. I don't need detailed explanations. Again, water is something which is very important part of nutrition, but it's often neglected. Hydration is something which is very important. I move over to question number 5. The question number 5 is, again, it's a bit lengthy, but it's simple if you know the answer. Question number 5 talks of a 60-year-old man who also weighs 60 kgs and has an estimated GFR of 17. That is, this individual has stage 4 chronic kidney disease. He is advised to take keto acids, which are available as a supplement. Keto acids are nitrogen-free analogs of essential amino acids. Now, in this patient weighing 60 kgs with stage 4 chronic kidney disease, who has started taking keto acids as per the advice of the nephrologist, what should be the dietary protein allowance per day? So 60 kgs body weight, stage 4 chronic kidney disease, started taking keto acids as per nephrologist's advice to preserve renal function. What should be the dietary protein allowance of this 60 kg patients on keto acids? I need a specific value, gram of proteins per day. If you know the answer, it's simple. It's a simple calculation that you need to work out. So we have crossed the halfway mark of this quiz. We move over to the last 5 questions. And Again, I would like to say that some of these questions that you are going to see over the next 5 questions are general knowledge questions. So if you use your common sense, if you use logic, you might be able to answer some of them. This, for example, is sort of a general knowledge question. You get to see 3 images in front of you on your screen. An image on the left showing a map, an image in the center showing a book, and an image to the right of your screen showing a particular tree. Now I need you to link these 3 and give me something related to diet, something which is very often discussed related to diet, which links these 3 images. So you give me a word or a phrase which is related to diet and which links these 3 images. I move over to question number 7. In question number 7, it looks a bit complicated, but it's actually easy. There are certain big studies done to look at the effect of different dietary components on the risk of cardiovascular disease. And we now know that saturated fatty acids in general, particularly if we obtain them from, say, dairy sources or from lean poultry, they do not lead to a significant increase in cardiovascular disease. However, saturated fatty acids, if replaced by some other sources of energy, for example, if you look to the bottom of your screen, if you look at the blue bar, if you replace saturated fatty acids, say 100 calories of saturated fatty acids with 100 calories of whole grain carbohydrates, you actually improve cardiovascular disease risk, you lowered it by 9%. On the other hand, there are certain things, for example, if you look at the red bar, if you replace saturated fatty acids with a certain food substance, you can increase the risk by 5%. With 2, there's a certain food substance, again, with which if you replace saturated fatty acids, you reduce cardiovascular risk by 15%. And 3, there is again something with which if you replace saturated fatty acids, you reduce the cardiovascular risk by 25%. So I need you to tell me what do 1, 2, and 3 represent. For example, whole grain carbohydrates, if they replace saturated fatty acids, you reduce the cardiovascular disease risk by 9%. If you replace saturated fatty acids by, say, maida, refined starches, or sugars, you increase the cardiovascular risk by 1%. 1 is something, a form of food which increases the risk of cardiovascular disease if you replace saturated fatty acid with 1. With 2, you reduce the risk by 15%. With 3, you reduce the risk by 25%. So what do 1, 2, and 3 represent? I need you to give me 1, 2, and 3. What do they represent? Question number 8. Again, a simple question, a straightforward question. There are 4 different dietary substances, components, which are given in front of you on your screen. All of them can reduce the incidence of gout, except, is it vegetable protein? Is it dairy or dairy products? Is it coffee or is it fruit juice? All of these 4, except one of them, can reduce gout. Which of these 4 is the one which does not reduce gout? That should be your answer. I'll give you another 10 seconds before I move over to question number 9. Okay. So question number 9. Again, this is a general knowledge question. The structure that you are seeing here is a massive structure which is located in an island. Norway owns this island in the Arctic archipelago. So what is the importance of this structure? And it has something to do with nutrition. So that is why it's there in this quiz. Importance of this structure in Norway, in an island in Norway, in a remote island in Norway, built into a mountain. Importance of this structure. I move over to the last and final question for today's quiz, after which I'll be waiting for a minute and then I'll be giving out the answers to the questions. So there are 4 beverages that are shown on the screen in front of you. I want you to tell me in terms of calories, if I take 200 milliliters of each of these beverages, which will have the lowest calorie content, which will have the highest calorie content? There are four options: Amul, Chach, or buttermilk; Coke, Coca-Cola, which is a popular soft drink; Fruity, a popular mango drink; and Amul Cool Lassi, a popular milk beverage, which is available widely across cities and villages as well. So I need you to tell me, if you take 200 ml of each of these, which amongst these has the lowest amount of calories, which amongst these has the highest amount of calories. I do not need the number of calories, but I just need the lowest and the highest, or the best and the worst in terms of calories. It's 7:15 now. I'll wait for a minute till 7:16. I have given you a WhatsApp number. You can send in your entries at that WhatsApp number. You write your answers on a piece of paper from 1 to 10, take an image of it and send it to my WhatsApp number. I've started receiving some entries as well. There are some who have directly sent the answers. That is also acceptable as well. You can directly type in the answers and send to my WhatsApp number, or you can write on a piece of paper, take an image and send it to the WhatsApp number. I'll wait for another 30 seconds, after which I'll start giving out the answers. And once I start giving out the answers, I'll not be receiving any more entries. Okay, I think it's time now, another 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So all entries which I've received till now will be adjudicated to look for the winners. So go over to the answers. I'll give you the answers. So which of the following is false? Excess salt consumption leads to, it leads to Helicobacter pylori infection. Increased salt can lead to that, which might increase stomach cancer. Excess salt leads to excretion of calcium in urine. It increases calcium excretion, and it leads to damage to bones, and osteoporosis and renal stones increase. Excess salt intake actually leads to an increase in body weight because it increases our thirst, and it often leads to increased intake of sugar sweetened beverages. Excess salt also leads to certain catabolic changes in the muscle, and to maintain muscle mass we have to take more energy, which at the end leads to obesity. So excess salt consumption leads to an increase in body weight. There was an option D, a decrease in body weight. So it leads to stomach cancer, renal stones, osteoporosis, and an increase in body weight, not a decrease in body weight. So option D was false. There was a sentence which I had shown, whether it's true or false. It's false because there's a part of this answer which is false. Pink salt is obtained from, definitely obtained from Himalayan salt, which means that Sondhob Lobon is the source of beet noon. Black salt is processed to get pink salt, but 99% of both black salt and pink salt is sodium chloride. So there's only a 1% difference. The amount of sodium in rock salt or pink salt is not much different from the amount of sodium which is present in common salt. So there's a wrong conception that if we take rock salt or pink salt, our sodium intake will be low, which is not correct. They are equally harmful in terms of causing the problems that increased sodium intake might cause. The missing values: with lemon, it was 6 grams of carbohydrate per 100 grams of fruit. With banana, it was 20 grams of carbohydrate per 100 gram of fruit. But overall, again, we know that fruit has vitamins, fruit have fibers, and they are one of the healthiest sources of energy that we know of. So the answers would be 6 and 20 that I was looking for. Why does a mineral water bottle have an expiry date? It's because the bottle has an expiry date. The plastic that makes a bottle has an expiry date. It has nothing to do with the water that is there in the bottle. Water per se does not have an expiry date, but since the plastic has an expiry date, you have to use bottled water within a certain date that is given on the bottle. So a 60 kg man with stage 4 chronic kidney disease advised keto acids. So if someone is advised keto acids, then you need to cut down on the protein intake, because keto acids per se have a high protein content. They are nitrogen-free analogs of essential amino acids. And the protein content is cut down to 0.3 grams per kg per day in someone who is advised keto acids. So 0.3 grams per kg of a 60 kg individual would be 18 grams. And this is again a graphic to show the protein requirements in patients with different categories of kidney disease. So if you look at a symptomatic or complicated CKD, which refers to a person with stage 4 chronic kidney disease, not requiring dialysis, but having some uremic symptoms at that point of time, if you prescribe keto acids, then you need to give that person a very low protein diet, which is 0.3 grams per kg per day. So you need to keep in mind that prescription of keto acids and the diet has to be done very carefully to avoid over replacement of proteins. The single term which links these three images is Mediterranean or Mediterranean diet. The sea and the countries that you are seeing on this map, it's the Mediterranean Sea surrounded by what we call the Mediterranean region. Now, Mediterranean, the term is derived from a Latin term Mediterraneus, which means the center of the earth. The ancient Romans considered the Mediterranean Sea to be the center of the earth. And if you look at the image, it's an image of an olive tree. And olives, we know, olive oil particularly forms a very important component of the Mediterranean diet. So the answer that I was looking for is Mediterranean. Effect of substitution of saturated fats, something improves, something deteriorates if you replace saturated fat. Now, if you replace saturated fat with trans fat, you increase the cardiovascular risk. On the other hand, if you replace saturated fat with MUFA, you reduce the risk by 15%. If you replace saturated fats with PUFA, you reduce the cardiovascular disease risk by about 25%. So A would be trans fat, B would be MUFA, and C would be PUFA. All of the following can reduce the incidence of gout, except, and the answer that I was looking for is fruit juice, because vegetable protein, dairy, they act as uricosurics. They reduce uric acid levels. Coffee and vitamin C, they are known to reduce uric acid levels. Coffee is also known to inhibit the xanthine oxidase enzyme. On the other hand, alcohol, red meat, particularly seafood, and sugar-sweetened beverages can increase the incidence of gout. And we know that fruit juice might often have fructose or sugar-sweetened beverages, and they might actually increase the incidence of gout rather than reducing the incidence of gout. So the answer that I was looking for is fruit juice, which does not reduce the incidence of gout. The importance of this structure in Norway, this structure is known as the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. All countries across the world sent samples of seeds of indigenous crops to this vault. It is kept there securely so that in case of a natural catastrophe or a war or a famine, or in cases of, say, a nuclear disaster, samples of seeds which are indigenous to different regions of the world are preserved there safely. As I said, it is situated deep inside a mountain, and it has been said that it is safe from different natural calamities if you store a copy of your indigenous crop seed there. For example, in Afghanistan and in Syria, their local seed banks have been destroyed or have not been maintained properly because of the war going on there. But luckily, copies of crops, copies of seeds of crops indigenous to these regions are stored in the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, so they can always be recovered from there, and then you can do agriculture, resume agriculture as normal. Which would be the lowest calorie content and the highest calorie content containing beverage? So it was actually arranged in ascending order. Amul Chach or buttermilk would have only 58 calories per 200 ml. On the other hand, Amul Cool Lassi would be having 158 calories per 200 ml. So that even though we consider Amul Cool Lassi to be a dairy beverage, relatively healthy, it has a high sugar content, which pushes up the calorie content of Amul Cool Lassi. So I think with that, I bring down the curtains on this quiz. Sorry for exceeding my time, but I think explaining the questions, explaining the answers actually took some time. I request all of you to remain tuned in, to remain logged on right till the end of this event, because that is when the quiz winners will be announced, and I think exciting prizes await the winners of this quiz. With that, I hand it back to the organizers to take over and take forward the meeting.